I'm just curious, are you in a space where, okay, the Herm experiment, that's done, let's move on?
Well, I think that it is. I think that it is time to move on, Brad. When Kent alluded to it earlier, when Todd Graham was fired, Ray Anderson, set new guidelines. He said, this is the standard. Mediocrity is no longer accepted around here. He set the standards, what the expectations were. Well, in 4 years now, Herm has fallen short of those expectations. I do think there's a huge overreaction from not only fans, but media as well. I've heard too many people say Saturday's game was the most embarrassing loss in program history.
No.
Are you kidding me? I remember sitting in the press box at Nebraska. Tom Osborne, it was Jake Plummer and Bruce Snyder's football team. They dropped 63 at halftime and won 77-28. Are you kidding me? I've watched Pete Carroll and USC, Chip Kelly and Oregon Ducks really embarrass us. No, it wasn't. So stop the nonsense. It wasn't the most embarrassing game in program history. But
Kent was actually at the most embarrassing game. That was the week previous at Utah, right, Kent?
That might have been the most embarrassing half. I know ASU fans will go back to one of maybe Bruce Snyder's last year's when they lost to New Mexico State at home, 35-7, something like that. That was embarrassing. At least those games Coop mentioned, they were losing to Nebraska and USC and not Washington State. By Ray Anderson's standards alone, there has to be a change, don't you think? I don't know how. Just the football alone is a disappointment. Then the investigation and the backdrop to that, even more so. Where does the future lie? You've got 5 recruits, 5 verbal commits in the 2022 class. I read somewhere where, that's the worst, that's the lowest number in a Power 5 school. It's tied with Kansas. So I'm not sure you have to do anything quickly, because you certainly don't need to preserve a recruiting class that doesn't exist. But it sure seems like it's headed down that road and probably should be headed down that road.
So, Kent, you are in that mindset that it is time for a change.
I'm coming around to it. I just don't see a team that's responding. And you look at what's the state of the program 4 years into this. And, you have an AD and a president who established a standard, and it has not been met.
Bruce Cooper, Kent Summers with us for a couple of minutes. Switching gears over to the Arizona Cardinals. Kent, from what you see right now, is this team in a space where, the injuries of midseason are starting to hit? It was a loss that was a tough one with A.J. Green just turns around. Are they teetering? Is it just a bump in the road? Is it, hey, Brad, get back to me in January when they're still playing regular season games? What do you make out of where they are right now?
I think it's a bump in the road that was inevitable to come. They were due for that. It's hard to win 7 games in a row, and they accomplished it. It has given them some cushion. A.J. Green turns around, catches a back shoulder pass. We're all talking about different things this week. It's always amazed me, and I'm guilty of it too. It's always amazed me how one play changes everything in the NFL. It's a team that if Kyler Murray stays healthy, if they maintain general health, they'll be fine. This is a team that can go deep into the playoffs. They're going to get Rodney Hudson back at center. That's going to help the offensive line. They're going to be able to protect Kyler Murray better. And you know what? And to protect Kyler Murray for his ankle to get better, if he has to take a week or 2 off, then that's what they should do. Make sure he's healthy down the stretch. The big key to me is the second half of the season. How does Cliff Kingsbury coach? Because we've seen all the way back to Texas Tech, his teams falter in the second half of the season. And they talked about that all last offseason, how they blew it at the end of the year and they needed to bring in leadership and address those things. And we'll see if they really have.
Coop?
Look, let me tell you something. I saw this game a little differently than everyone else did. Sure, we want to talk about A.J. Green not turning around. But what I saw, it was a team that answered a couple big questions for me. Because if you're going to be a Super Bowl contender, you have to have a defense that can make a stop during a championship drive. They did that at the 1-yard line. If you're going to be a championship contender, you need an offense that can give you a championship drive. They went 94 yards to the 5-yard line. And to me, that drive should have been completed. Even without, I mean, you saw the effects of what DeAndre Hopkins means to that offense. If he's your number one receiver and he's healthy, the pass you're looking his way, but he's not. So you're looking at AJ Green's. No question it was a miscommunication, but I saw a team that came up with a championship defensive stop. I saw a team that came up with a championship type drive. Those are the type of questions I'm asking myself. Can the Cardinals get it done in late game situations when adversity is there? Can they make those Tom Brady type plays or those Bill Belichick defensive type stops? Can they do it? Well, at least for week 8 against the Green Bay Packers, they kind of answered my questions. I feel a lot better about him relative to that than I did prior to.